So in this video, we're covering something that gets asked a lot in the channel, which is how do I get started in modular synths? Where do I buy them? How much does it cost? How long does it take to get this? Things like that. We'll attempt to answer one of those questions in this video, which is a nice way to get started in it. We'll cover two of them that I normally recommend, and also go over a couple of extra things that may be something to consider when getting into the modular synth world. And don't forget, guys, like and comment below. And if you're new to the channel, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. We've got lots more videos coming out. First off, I want to recommend one of my favorite programs out there, VCV Rack. It's a modular synthesizer virtual environment that you can use. It uses the same format that your rack uses, so it's very easy to learn. There's inputs and outputs. There's even commercial modules that you can find in the real world in the software. It's absolutely incredible, and it has applications where you can apply it within real hardware. So if you can actually get modules that can interface with VCV Rack down the road, it's pretty incredible stuff. Probably the most amazing part is that the software is basically free. Of course, it works on donations and things like that. If you want to try this out and not spend anything, VCV Rack is excellent way to go about that. Another one is probably something more that you would expect is a hardware solution to getting into the modular world. They're known as semi-modular synths. They're basically synths with a host of patch points that you're able to patch into and break the pre-routed circuit within there. Typically, you'll have a full system of an oscillator, a filter, envelope, and an output section. Some have a lot more, some have effectively that. One of my favorite ones that I love to recommend because it is the least expensive way to go is the Behringer Neutron. It has two oscillators that have wave shapers. The LFO is fairly decent, has a wave shaper on it as well. You have a fantastic filter with it, two separate envelopes. On top of all that, you also get two attenuators, a sample and hold module, a slew limiter, mults, inverters, and you get a distortion and a bucket brigade style delay. The synth itself sounds incredibly clean. It cuts through. You can do everything from really acidy stuff to pads to bass lines. It's a very versatile synth, and effectively what you would want to buy maybe when you first wanted to build a modular synth. You'll want to get some oscillators, a filter, at least an LFO, some envelopes, and then all those other utilities like slew limiter and sample and hold. These are all things that are very nice to have as well. And the benefit with that synth is that it's Eurorack compatible. So you can actually take it out of its case and put it into a Eurorack and everything integrates with it. Or you can put Eurorack modules in a separate case and have them go from back and forth. It doesn't really matter. And that's one of the nice things too. And something to think about down the road is if you go with the semi-modular route, you're able to really experience mostly what modular has to offer. There is way more, but you're going to have a better understanding of covering the basics. Besides the Neutron, you can also get Moog makes a semi-modular, Pittsburgh Modular, IntelliGel. Just about everyone out there makes one like it. The only reason I mention the Behringer Neutron is because I own one, and I've been extremely happy with the sounds that it produces and how well it actually functions against everything else. And over time, I thought, this is a fantastic way to get started. The manual has a lot of patches that you can use to really explore the unit, but let's say down the road you're like, oh, I need another filter, or I want another LFO, or I want to get weird and I want to put, you know, a granular synth or whatever, you can add those things into it and they all integrate just like you would with any other modular synth. And let's say on the other hand, you get it, you mess with it, you just don't, it's just not for you, it's not what you thought it would be, or it's not what you think is worth it. Whatever the reason, you're in and out at a very inexpensive rate of spending $200 or $300 for buying a used or brand new Neutron. It's not too bad of a situation. And again, VCV Racks, of course, is that option where you would spend nothing and get nearly the exact same experience as getting a ton of modules. So a couple of other resources out there for modular synth to consider. One that hopefully you already know about is modulargrid.net. This is a website that has an incredible amount of resources for mapping out and designing your modular system. It's also just great for looking up modules. I use it all the time when I'm thinking, oh, I need to get a VCA or an LFO or an envelope generator, and I can simply organize by that and look at every envelope generator that was ever made. Some of them aren't even available anymore. Some of them are DIY only, but they're almost all there. So it's a fantastic resource for just looking up what's out there in the modular synth world. So another thing too about modulargrid.net that's nice is that when you're building a rack within the system, it will give you lots of nice little information as well. Primarily, you're going to get information about your current draw, which is something you want to think about, especially when you go on to work on wanting to get a case and plan out your case system. Obviously, the two go hand in hand, but when you're looking for a commercial case, current draw is one of the big things you need to consider. And the company that provides the power supply or how you go about the power supply is something that you want to consider. Now, first off, I'll say that all major commercial power supply manufacturers that make cases for Eurorack are great. No company is better than another company or anything like that. They all more or less effectively do the job. Now, will you run out of power easier on some than you would on others? That's very true. Some are way over-engineered, and that over-engineering actually provides a lot of backup that you're able to use within that. Others are engineered at the bare essentials, which provides exactly what you need, but when you start to ask for more than what it can give, it won't do it for you. You always kind of want to plan for a little bit over, a little bit of headroom, and you always want to just try to make sure that you don't get too close, or definitely you don't want to exceed the case's power requirements. Also, keep in mind if you plan to upgrade as well. One other thing with the cases to think about is the depth. That's another thing that modulargrid.net gives you, is your total depth. I cannot stress about giving yourself as much room in the back as you can. I know that it's very nice to have a very tight knit system, but there's a couple of things that you'll run into. One is that the ribbon cables from the power supply and the other neighboring modules are going to get in the way, and they may prevent your module from sitting correctly when it goes to be put in. Another thing is that I haven't really ran into too many cases that don't have a big giant thing in the middle of it, whether it be some sort of daughter board that comes up out of there, or maybe a molding in the case, or ratchets, or whatever. I've seen it all, and it always runs into preventing me from putting that one module that has an extra depth in there because it simply won't work. It'll work in a different spot, but not in that one. So I guess the takeaway here is more is more. For example, I've been very happy with this A100 case just because the depth is absolutely splendid, and it still is a nice and shallow case. It's not terrible. versus I have a Pittsburgh Modular Cell 90, which is very shallow and it's very difficult. And there is a power supply board off to the side, which takes up your depth. And there's a lot of modules that I can't place in that area simply because they're too deep. All right, well, that just about does it for this video, guys. Take care, and I'll see you on the flip side.